Thank you so much for joining us for the open mic portion of the evening. I'm Lana Aires, and along with Michael Dillon Welch, we help host this fabulous evening, the third Thursday of every month. As you know, we're well into 5 years. We've passed 5 years. I believe we passed it in July or August. So we're now going into our 6th year of poetry nights monthly at SoulFood Books. And I'm going to do something tonight that I have never done. And that is, I'm going to read you 2 poems of my own. Now, I have never done this because I always feel like I don't want to take up anyone else's space. But you may have noticed I've been gone a couple of these meetings, and I've had some losses recently. And I feel like if I can share this with anybody, I can share it with my Soul Food family. So I'm going to do that tonight. And I appreciate your being here to bear witness to this. I think in the 5 years I've recited one-line poem of mine and recited a couple poems by Emily Dickinson and William Stafford, and that's it. But this is Lana. And I want to start with a poem dedicated to my mother, who died in July. While the bathtub is filling, the mirror reports that I am starting to resemble my mother. The way she looked, that time I went into her bedroom without knocking, saw her breasts, 2 weighted down plastic bags, bloated, slow-swinging pendulums. I decided right then to die at 18, in the prime of perkiness and elasticity. Last year, my mother showed me a fat scar where her left breast used to be. It looked as if a red snake had slithered out of her heart and hid his head in the brush of her armpit. The longer I stared, the more I recognized the creature for what it was: life. Nothing about nakedness was ever that lovely. My mother survived this halving. That scar, red brooch of honor, making me proud to be a woman like her. In a moment, when the bathtub is finally full, I'll forget the mirror, I'll forget all these musings, lie back in the pale green bath, and feel that warm water work its magic, make 2 buoyant, bobbing apples of my 2 old gals. And I guess everybody knows we've just passed the 10th anniversary of 9/11. My brother was a survivor of 9/11. He was at the World Trade Center in building number 4, and he was a volunteer EMT, and he spent a lot of time there that day. And because of his exposure to the burning jet fuel, he developed a very rare type of leukemia. And he passed away from that leukemia last year. So I'm kind of an orphan now. I'm the only one left in my family. But I wanted to read this poem for my brother here at Soul Food, particularly because it's a true story. 3 days after my brother died, he visited me. So this is the story. The dead boy visits the Hayden Planetarium, which surprises me because my brother's funeral was just a few days ago. Tonight, he is here for the Beatles' laser light show, and so am I, and we are both alone. He is a few rows ahead of me. I don't know it in the psychedelic bliss until the show ends with Let It Be and the house lights come on. The dead boy's hair is back to its slick black fullness. His skin is blush again. Hello, I call. My brother turns. His eyes are glassy. You're here too, my brother says, as if it's nothing to meet like this in a dream of Manhattan. Where are Merrill and the boys, I say. But my brother ignores me, says, I remember this show 30 years ago. Thought I'd see it one last time. How about we get some coffee, I say. No, it's late. I have to get back, my brother says. Back where, I say, not wanting the real answer. The dead boy shakes his head, half laughs, half coughs, steps out the door to the stone walkway where I know he's already become moonlight. Thanks. Thank you for letting me do that. I really appreciate your sharing that moment with me. Our first open mic reader who's not the host. I guess I should tell you my favorite vegetable is beets. I love beets. Okay. The first open mic reader has no favorite vegetables, apparently. Please welcome Al Suarez.
I like a few fruits, just not vegetables. This one's about D&D, Dungeons & Dragons. It's about like a roll of dice kind of thing to see what the outcome will be. Okay, and this is a haiku I made for a contest on thinkgeek.com. Roll the dice to see if you will get a crit on me. 15 damage dealt. And this one's about my cat now. My cat is my best friend. My cat is my sister. My cat is my therapist. My cat is adorable. My cat is fat. My cat is Belle.
Thank you, Al. Our next reader's favorite vegetable is apparently ground beef. Please welcome Jim Teeters.
I don't know, what's a vegetable anyway? It comes from the ground. Keep off the grass. Grass can cut your feet. This fact is widely ignored. So fly over the grass with your arms flung wide like the fingered wings of a red-tailed hawk as it swoops and sways aloft on the winds of heaven looking for prey. 2. If you must speak, speak softly, and if you must yell, yell only in hummingbird dialects. And then always turn your warbled voice toward the western sky as the sun fades. Never carry water in a bucket so large that it contains the entire heavens, even galaxies beyond. If you wear a pistol, holster it in full view and wear it on your hip with the trigger locked. Always think kindness when you get trigger happy. Never cross a river in a leaky rowboat, and never ride in a rowboat unless you wear an orange life jacket, and never wear an orange life jacket if it is labeled death jacket. When a locomotive blows its freedom sound, it arrives high and proud, but it leaves low and humble. The atmosphere is so still, your thoughts will float up like colored balloons across a dreamy, cloudless sky, and you'll lift your head and let out a freedom wail that starts deep and guttural, as if a tennis ball got caught in your gullet. But then it gets louder and louder until it splits and spills out a sound like the bursting of a failed levee, washing away all in its path. Ah, liberty. Finally, never read a poem under water, but under the influence of wine is okay. Remember, breathe. For God's sake, breathe. That one, thank you. And finally, called Reservations. Even if the wall of sky drops like the final curtain on the Romeo and Juliet days of my life, even if on odd days I'm carried down the aisle of no intermission to where dust collects in the corners of my backstage memories, even, and this is the final if, the applause drowns out the front row dream of you, and my torn ticket heart falls to the sticky floor, I will continue to reserve a seat each night as long as the season lasts. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Someone who loves corn but is never corny, Peter Ludwin.
Thank you so much for your poems. I'm going to read two very short 8-line poems and one 20-line poem. I figured that comes out to 2 poems. This first one is called Tagang, the Wild West. Tagang is a very small Tibetan community, about 12,500 feet up in Sichuan province in China. A pack of dogs roams the muddy street that bisects this one-horse Tibetan town, and a dead one stains the sidewalk with its corpse. Rough-looking kampas gather by their motorbikes. In the clinic, a hip young Chinese doctor gives me a 3-hour IV and a shot to bring my fever down. Obama, he says, Kobe. On the mountainside, prayer flags thick as stars. And this one is called Lima Hotel. My room, slightly larger than a closet, is on the roof. Monkeys and parrots mingle with the skin hides of caimans and jaguar pelts above the bathroom door. Ill, a long bus ride with vultures and vomit behind me, I read Michener and lurch to the bathroom whenever my body trembles. The tiny monkey who rummages through the sugar bowl on my breakfast table reminds me that this morning only he is God. This last poem, some years ago, I was in Mexico City, and I went to Frida Kahlo's house, the famous Blue House. And I knew at some point I wanted to write a poem about being there. There's a reference here to Coyoacan, which is the neighborhood in Mexico City where the house is. And the word knocked, not with a K, but in the sense of an arrow. It's the groove at the end of an arrow. This is called Regeneration. In the Blue House of Frida Kahlo, pain showers beauty into this bright room, that wild garden. A siren bramble, blood repped to the tip of its thorns. Arrows knocked with all my sundry names strike home, blossoms plucked from their beaded quiver. Anchored to Coyoacan, its volcanic soil, I take root in this womb of color. The swirling cries of street vendors filtered like smoke among the balconies where lost lovers drift like seaweed. Each day, an embryonic moon grows fat. I summon from the previous night the luminous, ash-covered grain, the flame trapped in marrow. Breath misted on a mirror lays bare a figure fleshing out its shape. Someone who has never been, never and always. Thank you.
Is it Hakem or Is that right, Alina? Hakim. Next up is a woman whose voice has been gone too long from this stage, and even her name and her vegetable are poetic. Alina, who loves zucchini. Welcome.
Thank you. It feels so good to be here. I really enjoyed everyone's poems so much, and it just feels good to be here. I hope you like mine. So this is about someone that I was seeing for a little while, and he had to go to Iraq. He left, and we split up. So still can't listen to that song. You know which one, by Marvin Gaye. He used to sing along in the car every day. Sunny days, rainy days, cloudy days. It was our day. Tried to play it, but I can't. My lungs react. The air's not enough. I reach for another CD to play another track. The memories kick in and my heart starts beating, heavy breathing, quickly thinking, don't know when. All I know is I wish I could pretend. I thought this was over, buried in a box under my bed, rose petals, pictures, cards signed by Kevin, never to forget. But I reread. Recaptured by the memory in my dreams of a deep sleep, too tired to retreat, left with defeat. A reaction from overdose, underdiagnosed, cold, corrupted, and ferocious, lingering feelings of love. It's getting hot in here. This one is called Raw. I wrote it really recently. And the beat begins, it's beating me thin, beginning to creep up my throat and soak to my skin, bleeding with guilt of evil sins. Evil stains slip further within, stab me with pain, sicker than sane. I thought we were done. I tucked you away. Curiosity continued. Seclusion, I'm afraid, is what came out to play. Butterflies dead, the fire is out, cut off the strings and retire the doubt. I'm allergic to loving. I'm a loveless unit of lumens that measures to 0 watts to drain out. Stitch back together my heart I once had. Stitch it all back together to when we were madly in love. Eyes closed, the tears roll down my face. It's too late to think about the could-haves. I could have been up to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. Keep coming. Broccoli is kind of the workhorse of vegetables. It's a great vegetable. Please welcome Meg Cane.
Okay, I'm going to read 2 poems. It's good to be here. It's been a long time. First one's called Deficiency of Bees. Wound surrounds heart, pierced, arrows sharp edges pulled out, memories raw from hunger, remembered, longing for something missing in endless search for elusive connections like mirages disappearing in endless reflections. In this moment, to pause and smell, see the bee, lingering for pollen, to find the next flower and go home, where the hive is busy waiting, and present time the only clock that ticks with the humming of bees. Oh, to go home, where the droning of laughter and honey await. Integrity, the sword that lingers, in intention dimly met, when forces deeper vie for unbidden court and parade like beasts, heralded on streets in front of vision that finds clouds for clarity. There might be truth in grayness where sun cast in reflected vision does not ring true but lingers, in teasing paradox of wants and needs deep inside the clouds, requesting confusion from easy choices that tug from winds, blowing hurricanes that swirl at intention's door and demand further attention in the madness for clarity. Thank you.
Thanks, Meg. I hope you keep coming too. Someone who loves that much maligned vegetable, and that really they're just cute little cabbages, Brussels sprouts. Please welcome Ken Osborne.
Hi. Is it possible to be a hot, old poet? Sounds a bit sleazy. But let's face it, I'm never going to be a hot young one. I was going to read you some poems about places I've been, take you around the world a little bit. But when two of you read poems about mothers, I thought, well, I've got to do this one. So here we go. It's called My Mother's Voice. In Thornbridge Road, I can recall the treadle singer in the hall, that through the years all silent stood beneath its polished arch of wood. For all those years we were not rich, it never sewed a single stitch. When passing, I could spin the wheel and rock the rack of trellised steel and see the needle flashing fast with unseen stitches from the past. What finery it must have sewn before its needle turned to stone, before the heart that made it good was locked beneath that polished wood. What memories it sings to me, when as a child I roamed so free. And yet, inside my burning brain, my mother forged an iron chain. My mother's voice, my mother's voice, my mother's voice, my mother's voice. It screamed inside my spinning head, squeezed down my eyes on seas of red, went on and on and on and on. My mother's voice was never gone. The same old words went round and round. The same old phrases ground and ground. It drove me down dark avenues with blackened skies and blackened views. Swift above the crooked stair with gilded rods, I trod the air, lest secret voices in the wood creaked out the place that I had stood. Straddling the turning flight, one silent moment of the night, I listened in the frozen air to hear my mother's voice down there. With trembling limbs and trembling heart, across the hall I made a start, and creak by creak, the front room door I swung across the swirling floor. And there, the kitchen's acid light beneath the door cut through the night. An age I listened in the glare, my ears alert, a vacant stare, until my heart could take no more. I opened up the kitchen door, and on the unlit oven sill, for broken heart or broken will, as she had said, before she drove me up to bed. Not laid with eyes in silent stare, with flames of gas among the air, but snuggled to the oven's heat, upon the sill her frozen feet, discarded shoes upon the floor, a vacant look, no less, no more. A novel balanced on her knee, blind and oblivious of me. Too late I tried to close the gap. She turned and caught me in her trap, firstly with her startled eye, then a shrill and raging cry. Like the wind, I'd quickly fled up the stairs and back to bed. She could have held me for a while, scolded with a gentle smile, warmed me by the cooker's flame, then tucked me up in bed again. Yet, as I shivered in the cold, afraid that she might come to scold, I quickly warmed inside my head to know my mother was not dead. Years later, when she vent her rage, I stood my ground inside her cage. Throwing back the smothering cloth, released the rage, released the wrath, feeling the strength that comes with age. Let go the words trapped on the page, and flex the power to incense, aware at last her poor defense. But quick the victory drained away. Her eyes grew wild, her face turned grey, a manic smile had curled her lip. Then crazily, with frenzied grip, she tore her hair, she sliced the air, and flung herself in frantic flare into a gruesome manic dance, her arms awry, her legs askance, until with awful moan and roar, she crumpled to the kitchen floor. Frozen, I stood with panic stare to see my mother lying there. The smell of sweat surrounds me now, her white flecked lips and glistening brow. No more I dared to taunt her then. I drove the peace, I kept the peace, I kept my pen. I drove the pain into my heart, her moving tore my mind apart. In such a way, she forged the chain that trapped the anger in my brain, and turned the love she could not share into a rage beyond repair. My mother's voice, it drove me out to range the streets for miles about. For 7 miles I blankly strode to kill the sound, to ease the load. On times when she worked far away, I'd lie in bed throughout the day. When she was home, I'd creep outside and range the country far and wide. And only when the stars were high and gas lamps haloed on the sky, with foghorns booming in my head, I'd wander safely home to bed. In Thornbridge Road, I can recall my mother's presence in the hall, where always she has silent stood beyond my aching heart of wood, and all those years her secrets hid beneath a locked and polished lid. When passing, I could spin the wheel and rack her mind of blunted steel, and see upon her face flash fast the bitter memories of the past. What happiness she must have known before her heart was turned to stone, before the heart that made her good was locked beneath that polished wood. What memories had she locked out of times she never talked about, when too, in her own burning brain, my mother forged an iron chain. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. A fellow lover of corn, we have Al Drinkwine, who needs to come more often as well. Welcome, Al.
Had I been thinking a little quicker, I would have put down French fries. Anyway, my poetry is politically and spiritually oriented. So I know there's a separation of church and state in this country, but it really doesn't come to pass, because if you think about it, the churches are located in the state. Going to take a helicopter to church if they're suspended elsewhere? Anyway, my first one is Love's Voice. Love's voice has no boundaries. When love's gentle voice whispers to our hearts, it does not say, I cannot love you because you are my same sex. Nor does it say, it's wrong to love you because your skin tone does not match mine. When love's gentle voice whispers to our hearts, it has no concern as to what society may think. When love's gentle voice whispers to our hearts, it crosses man-made religious taboos. When love's gentle voice whispers to our hearts, it does not say, Mom and Dad will not approve. It is humankind who complicates love. These hesitations, restrictions to love's natural flow, are human-made, not God-generated. Love's voice, God's love, whispering to our hearts, has no boundaries, no fences, no borders. My next one comes from a book that I worked for the last couple of years to get out. It's poetry and reflections, and it has a lot of photography in it from my wife's and my trip to Ghana, Africa, where we went to commission 3 of the 6 wells that people in this area funded. We spent 3 weeks there, and so a lot of the highlights of the trip are contained in color photographs in it. It costs $32 a piece to print them, so it's a steal at $20. I got a couple of them if anybody's interested. This one, Border Crossings, is a summation of a class that my wife and I took this last spring on migration and immigration in regards to governments and nations throughout the world, and biblically founded. Border crossings. The plight of migration. Noah's family, due to an unnatural disaster, floated for months on extremely high tides. God only knows how many borders he crossed, where and where they traveled or docked. Without Noah's forced migration, earthly life would have drowned. Jacob and his family left the famine in Canaan en route to Egypt in search of food. Moses led the Israelites out of political oppression in Egypt to freedom in the promised land. Joseph and Mary traveled from Nazareth due to political conditions to be enrolled in the census. Wise men in search of hope journeyed far, crossing borders led by a star. By cover of night, in fear of their son's life, Joseph and Mary fled from Bethlehem with baby Jesus. As an adult itinerant for his personal safety, Jesus fled his hometown of Nazareth as a homeless itinerant. He traveled through life's deserts with nowhere to lay his head. Through the birth of Jesus, God migrated to earth as an immigrant. Jesus Christ was physically killed by human hands because he was crossing spiritual borders. Metaphorically, Christ's body dies regularly as U.S. immigration policies and border fences result in Hispanic deaths in American southern deserts. Earth citizens move to avoid persecution, to find food, to avoid political oppression, to remain with family, for medical reasons, to avoid wars, to remove themselves from disasters, to seek religious and personal freedoms. In the human search for a better life, oceans, mountains, rivers, and deserts are crossed. Fences are climbed. Tunnels are dug. Trains are hopped. Borders are crossed. Who is it to say if some human migrations are not inspired by heavenly voices? Who is it to say if God is not among or one of these immigrants? Thank you.
Well, this is a vegetable that requires a lot of dedication, the artichoke. Please welcome Herb McLeave.
I remember my first artichoke. I must have been 17 years old, and I was in France, and a Frenchman introduced me to the mysteries of it. This poem is not about artichokes. We've been talking about borders, and I have a poem of that name that I've read before. Some of you will remember it, but it seemed appropriate to read it. I'm going to try to use this as a stand if I can. We're a frame shop. We protect your picture and guide the viewer's eye, whether a family portrait or a precious work of art. This couple's Van Gogh, a too familiar print. How can it be framed so that their friends will see it for the first time? Border it with a textured mat and place it in a gilded frame, all to guide the eye from our clamoring world to a wheat field in Arles not so long ago. Now, an art collector and physician brings a photograph to frame taken in Africa. Another too familiar scene, malnourished children with big smiles waiting at a clinic. How can it be framed? How can we guide the eye to this scene of pain and joy? No frame will do. A dry mount should suffice. To, as the printers say, let it bleed. Then entitle it Sans Frontières, without borders. And then there's been some poems about death. And another one I've read not too long ago from here, but I'm still struggling with it. This is about my stepfather, who inspired me somewhat in poetry. A candle's flame dies to be reborn, its light a karmic dance. I lost my stepfather years ago, a gentleman and poet. I was there when he died, but did I really know him? What if we could meet again, breaking the rule of time, and fly kites as boys and strive as men? Would we ever true friendship find? To know this man who's gone before, I turn to family and friends who recalled his open spirit, which in sharing never ends. Bereft, I searched my memory and walked her echoing halls for a sight of him or a voice. Not in here was all. Outside these walls, I sadly roamed in twilight gardens beyond time, till I found a motley throng, and in their midst a fire sublime. I'm lost, I cried. Welcome, friend, a tall man shouted, opening the crowd. Before him stood a brazier, holding an opalescent fire, fed by vestal tenders, and my mother, now young. For Horace, she sighed. After a silence, an ancient stirring the coals inquires, and friend, what bring you? Myself, I replied. Thank you.
Thanks, Herb. Next up, a woman who loves those earthy leeks. Please welcome Allison Shaw.
Thank you. On the mother theme. Mother to daughter. No longer hot, igneous intrusion, nor yet mountain ground down, but rather both high slope and loose scree. I am your sharp, sweet aggregate child of grit and shit and rain. Gordian knot. Distance halved and halved again, still once more halved. The distance between the hoped and the whole. Between the hoped and the whole, the distance impossible. Realized impossible. The impossibility of reaching more than halfway, halfway here, even in the grasp of your thighs, in the knot of your thighs. Let me lie in the tease of your thoughts and your thighs, contained, even halfway contained. Contained, not even half inside, more than half outside, outside the whole, the tangle of halves, the knottle of fingers, the Gordian knot, the knot of each other, the half of the other, the half of the half, the not whole. Sublimation for Joe. 1. Nights at a stretch, I would dream my body breastless, whether misplaced or discarded or wrenched from my chest, I don't remember. Anything but those nightly sorties, pushing through rain from north to south, leaning under the weight of water and weapon, pushing the ground to keep the pace, swallowing panic when the earth went slack, when hands out thrust through muck, recognized what feet in their boots had curled from. No time to speculate who they might have been. Not ours, said the lieutenant. Move out. Uniforms stretched over distended flesh, mouths, eyes, every opening stoppered, made taciturn with clay. Not ours. Get up. Keep moving. Yet the ground had more push than I. 2. Night after night, the marches, pointless, except to cold finger weapons and, wait, I cry. This man is alive. Not true. 10 paces away, the lieutenant. This man's dead. Fall in, she commands. Move out. And they're gone. Not a woman looks back. 3. The weight of his wrist, his pulse, a panicked embryo kicking beneath the skin. 4. Is this desertion? The shape of his face is foreign, yet the bleeding is familiar as the monthly imperative. In my pores, his blood coagulating. know thine enemy. 5. Tend to his wounds. Take shelter in the lee of a hill. Anticipate daylight. 6. Which doesn't come, what comes instead? 7 is the thumb press of deep darkness, close heat, tight breath, sound, whoosh, whoosh. Mortar beat, whoosh, whoosh, and surround, not mortar. Heartbeat, steady, rumble and grumble, rumbling. Artillery, splutter and rumbling, not weapons. A seltzer of guts. Not knowing, have I stitched meaning to sound? Not knowing if this is life or death. If dead, then buried. Slip stitching. How else can this jim jam of heat and grease be understood? 8. Unless a slip up in the night. I'd carved my foxhole not in the hillside of the land, but in the hillside of his body. 9. Ear against blood throbbing. Listen. Locate the four-chambered echo, hollow fat, tunnel through muscle, take gristle into fists and climb. Lost sight. Is it folly? Enlisted to destroy, instead I desert, draft a one troglodyte platoon, Kit Carson through the underground on the possibility, on the belief of finding a true north. The weight of my presence. How many leukocytes did he marshal in defense before my toes touched the rungs of his spine? Before the impossible squeeze of my body through the eye of the hip of his skull. Prisoners of war, we do not choose the bodies we inhabit. The weight of my presence sinking into his fissures, tripping his neurons, triggering the flare and the fire. 10. And the whole dark sky of his eyes lights up.
Thank you, Allison. And our final poet of the night is our lovely barista Lily, who enjoys those rich, ripe tomatoes. Please welcome Lily.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And apparently, I guess I don't like vegetables. Tomatoes, and then before that, I thought of avocados. So I guess I don't like vegetables. I like fruit. And I wanted to thank all of you guys for coming out tonight, because it really is people like you that can dance with words that make amazing nights like tonight. And I wanted to read a poem by Khalil Gibran, and it's on work. Speak to us of work. And he answered, saying, you work that you may keep peace with the earth and the soul of the earth. For to be idle is to become a stranger unto the seasons, and to step out of life's procession that marches in majesty and proud submissions towards the infinite. When you work, you are a flute, through whose heart and whispering of hours turns to music. Which of you would be a reed dumb and silent when all else sings together in unison? Always you have been told that work is a curse and labor a misfortune. But I say to you that when you work, you fulfill a part of Earth's furthest dream, assigned to you when that dream was born. And in keeping yourself with labor, you are in truth loving life. And to love life through labor is to be intimate with life's inmost secret. But if you, in your pain, call birth an affliction and the support of the flesh a curse written upon your brow? Then I answer that not, but the sweat of your brow shall wash away that which is written. You have been told also, life is darkness. And in your weariness, you echo what was said by the weary. And I say that life is indeed darkness, save when there is urge. And all urge is blind, save when there is knowledge. And all knowledge is vain, save when there is work. And all work is empty, save when there is love. And when you work with love, you bind yourself to yourself and to one another and to God. And what is to work with love? It is to weave the cloth with threads drawn from your heart, even as if your beloved were to wear that cloth. It is to build a house with affection, even as if your beloved were to dwell in that house. It is to sow seeds with tenderness that reap the harvest with joy, even as if your beloved were to eat the fruit. It is to charge all things you fashion with a breath of your own spirit, and to know that all the blessed dead are standing about you and watching. Often have I heard you say, as if speaking in sleep, he who works in marble and finds the shape of his own soul in the stone is nobler than he who plows the soil. And he who seizes the rainbow to lay it on a cloth in the likeness of man is more than he who makes the sandals for our feet. But I say, not in sleep, but in the overwakefulness of no one tide, that the wind speaks not more sweetly to the giant oaks than to the least of all blades of grass. And he alone is great who turns the voice of the wind into a song made sweeter by his own voice. Work is love made visible. And if you cannot work with love, but only with distaste, it is better that you should leave your work and sit at the gates of the temple and take alms to those who work with joy. For if you bake bread with indifference, you bake a bitter bread that feeds but half man's hunger. If you grudge the crushing of the grapes, your grudge distills a poison in the wine. And if you sing, though as angels, and love not the singing, you muffle man's ears to the voices of the day and the voices of the night. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. You embody that poem. Your coffee enriches our spirits. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for sharing this really magical evening with us tonight. Our featured readers had to go off to, of all places, a funeral in Yakima, so they had to leave just a little bit early. But I would like to go into the close of the evening with some thanks for all of the wonderful folks here at Soul Food, all of you for your sacred words and your sacred listening, and for our featured readers, and for your safe journeys tonight. Good night.